Hi everyone, welcome back to First Chapter Fridays, episode 7. So this week's pick is Mananaland. Now this would be for fans of stories about family, adventure, magic realism, and of course the books Esperanza Rising and Echo. It's by the same author, Pam Munoz Ryan. So it has great reviews. It's over a 4 on Goodreads, and it's about 11-year-old Max who lives in a fictional city and actually a country the same name in South America. It's called Santa Maria. And he's grown up hearing stories and legends from his abuelo, or his grandpa, about a mysterious gatekeeper who leads travelers to a place called Mananaland. And this is like a safe haven for these travelers. So this summer, he gets the opportunity to help a traveler in need of rescue. So can he do it even though this would be against his father's wishes? Well, we'll find out. So let's go ahead and read chapter 1 together. Yesterday. 1. Somewhere in the Americas, many years after Once Upon a Time and long before Happily Ever After, a boy climbed the cobbled steps of an arched bridge in the tiny village of Santa Maria, in the country of the same name. He bounced a football on each stone ledge. In the land of 100 bridges, this was his favorite. When he was only a baby, Papa, a master stones mason and bridge builder, had carved his name on the spandrel wall for all to see. Maximiliano Cordoba. On his bridge, Max liked the going up of it. He liked that when he reached the threshold, the deck breached Rio Bobinedo and a long bumpy alley. He dropped the ball and dribbled it toward the middle of the deck, bouncing off the sides of his dusty Huarache sandals. Here above the keystone, he could see all of his world before him, and the river below, curving away from Santa Maria, looping back and curving away again. He moved his hand to mimic the river's erratic path as it circled the islet's giant boulders. Why was Rio Bobinedo so indecisive? Max glanced over his shoulder to make sure Papa hadn't caught up. Once, he whispered, a gargantuan serpent as wide as 20 houses and as long as 3 states could not decide whether to slither west towards the ocean or east toward the mountains. As soon as the serpent chose one direction, the other seemed far more appealing. Back and forth it went, side-winding across the earth, its body leaving a huge chasm in its wake. The chasm eventually filled with rain and became the river. Satisfied, Max smiled. This was his favorite spot to make up stories and wonder about big and bewildering things. How long it would take to grow up to become a man, if he would ever see what lay beyond the horizon, and why his mother left, and whether he'd ever meet her. Max knew that Papa didn't like big questions of any kind, especially ones about the past or the future. Some of them even seemed to cause him pain. Max couldn't count the times Papa had instructed him to stand firmly in the reality of today, or life will only bring you disappointment tomorrow. He pushed Papa's words aside and gazed out at the village. The more prominent houses, greens, yellows, blues, hugged the riverbanks. The spire of the chapel, or the Our Lady Sorrows, pointed towards the heavens. Citrus orchards and grape fields bordered the outskirts of town. Nestled in the foothills on dirt roads, modest white stone cottages perched like patient doves at roost. Max shaded his eyes until he spotted his. Was Bola already cooking dinner with Lola at his side, begging for scraps? He let his gaze continue upward, toward a jagged cliff where a stone tower loomed. Everyone called this stronghold La Reina Gigante, a giant queen, because she looked like the most powerful piece on a chessboard. Max loved that wherever he went in Santa Maria, he could at least see the merlins and crenels of her crown, as if she was always watching over him. He even had a faint memory of sitting at her feet while red blossoms rained upon him. Had it been a dream? The palace surrounding La Reina Gigante had once been majestic too, but that was decades before the cannons of ancient armies demolished the roof, the earthquake unsteadied the walls, and the war in the neighboring country of Abismo forced legions of people to flee a dictator, using the ruins as a safe place to hide. Some said that these hidden ones were poor innocents, women and children. Others said they were malicious criminals, filthy beggars, and the unwanted. No one had ever seen a hidden one to know for sure. but it was rumored that their spirits returned each year on the wings of the peregrine falcon. Sometimes, when the heavy mist shrouded the hills and Santa Maria fell silent, their ghosts could be heard whispering prayers to the giant queen for her protection and guidance, as if she were a saint or a guardian angel. Everyone knew someone who had heard them. The entire property around La Reina Gigante and the ruins was fenced, abandoned, and off-limits. Only Papa had permission from the mayor to commandeer the rubble to build new bridges. For as long as he could remember, Max had begged Papa to take him to see La Reina and the ruins up close. He'd be a hero among his friends if he was the first boy to cross the haunted gates. Just because Papa didn't believe in ghosts didn't mean they weren't there. Maybe this summer Papa would finally take him. He was almost 12. Max leaned over the capstones, warm from the afternoon sun, and waited for Papa to catch up. In the river, he saw half of his head reflected, a mop of black curls, heavy eyebrows, and caramel-colored eyes. Wello called them tiger eyes, and he said they were a sign of strength and determination. Choi called them leche quemada eyes, like their favorite milk and brown sugar candy. Some of the boys at school called them devil eyes. Max did his best to ignore them, but he wondered if the boys knew something about him that he did not. Was he filled with badness? Still, they were his mother eyes, and one of the only few things about her he could claim. That and a tiny silver compass on a leather cord that once belonged to her. He patted his chest and felt it beneath his shirt. As he tossed a pebble into the river, he let the rippling water turn his heavy thoughts to happier ones. School was out, and tryouts for the village football team were in a few weeks. Like his closest friends, he dreamed of making the team. Max picked up the ball and threw it at the parapet, letting it ricochet back so he could catch it. The bumpy stones set the ball in unpredictable directions, forcing Max to hover and anticipate. He kicked it hard, and when it hit the wall and flew back at him, he batted it down. "Bravo!" Papa yelled. "Don't unsettle any of the facing, though, or I'll have repairs." His cheeks flushed with ruddy circles and his forehead wrinkled from his usual troubled frown. "You know I can kick it as hard as you," said Max. Papa was broad-shouldered and solid, a wall of strength and muscle. He and Buello had both played goalie on Santa Maria's national team, and Max wanted to one day do the same. He was already as tall as both of them, but scrawny. Max kicked the ball up and caught it in his hands. "Do you remember that tryouts are next month?" "It's hard to forget when you remind me so often," Papa almost smiled. "I was wondering, my football shoes are nearly too small and the toes will need wrapping soon. If I had a pair of the volantes, the ones with the fancy wings on the side, I'd surely make the team." He looked at Papa hopefully. "Your shoes are fine for now, and expensive ones that we can't afford won't make you a better player. A world of disappointment comes from wishing for what you cannot." But before Papa could finish, a falcon swooped overhead, low enough that both he and Max ducked. "It's so big," said Max as it caught a current and soared away. "Peregrine," said Papa, "a female that has come back to nest." "Whose spirit did it bring on its wing?" wondered Max. "They say," he started, then thought better of repeating the superstition. "They say they come back to the same spot every year." Papa nodded. "It's true, but I haven't seen one that large for a long time, and it is a little late to nest. Others have already come and gone." He put an arm around Max's shoulder and hugged him to his side. "Let's go, Slowpoke." "Me? Slow?" Max quickly dribbled the football across the deck and called over his shoulder. "I'm going to meet Troy at the field, and I'll still beat you home because you have to stop and talk to everyone." "Come home right after. Bella went fishing this morning, and dinner will be ready in an hour or so. I don't want to have to come looking." "Okay," Max yelled back. Papa had only recently allowed him to go to the field on his own. Max didn't want to give him reason to take back the small freedom or upset him. Saturday was Papa's night out with his friends and Max's night in with Buello, and he wanted to keep it that way. By the time Max reached the bridge's landing, he felt as free as the soaring peregrine. Summer was the infinite sky before him. He had months to swim in the water hole, play football with his friends, and get ready for tryouts. Tonight, he would go to sleep with a belly full of fish after an evening of trading stories with Buello, fantastical tales about dragons and serpents or river monsters and trolls. He clutched the ball to his chest and jumped towards the bank, taking 2 steps at a time. On his bridge, he even liked the going down of it. All right, that was chapter 1. This book is available for checkout for curbside and also on Sora. See you next week.